Hey everyone, this is Heidi from the blog Hands Occupied with another knitting video tutorial. In this video, I want to walk you through how to tink. Now, tink was a word I hadn't come across in my 20 years as a knitter, but after I did some research when I was asked to make this video, I realized that a lot of people know the word tink. So for those of you like me who are new to the term, tinking means essentially to knit backwards to fix a mistake. So instead of tearing out your entire row of knitting by pulling out the needle and just yanking on that working yarn, what you do is you actually work each stitch in reverse so that you don't have to worry about losing stitches on rows that you've already worked below the one you're trying to tear out. So let me show you what this looks like. So on my needle here, I have a few rows of stockinette stitch. So on this side, we've got all of the nice V's from our knit one row, and on this side, we have all these bumps from our purl one row. Since our working yarn is over here, I'm gonna start working this row just like this. So I've got my working yarn weaved among my fingers. I carry my working yarn like this, but however you carry your working yarn when you're working normally in knitting, carry your yarn in that same way. It just makes things a little more comfortable. So what we're going to do is look for the first stitch in our row. So we've got this first stitch here, and our working yarn is run through this first stitch because it was the last stitch worked. So what we need to do is, instead of putting our needle through that first loop, we're going to put it through the one below it. And this yarn is a little bit fuzzy, so you'll have to look closely, but this loop right here is the loop we're going for. So I'm going to put my needle through that loop, sweep off the loop that our working yarn is attached to, and give our working yarn just a little tug to free up that loop and undo the stitch. So again, we're going to look at not this loop that's on our left-hand needle, but the stitch that's below it. And to tink this, you're going to need to make sure to grab the front of the loop. So that would be the part of the loop that's to the right. You're going to grab that with your right-hand needle, sweep it off, and my tension was so good on my working yarn there that that loop just popped right out. Let me do that a little bit slower so you catch it this time. So this is the loop we're going for. It's the loop directly below the one on our left-hand needle. We're going to grab the front of the loop with our right-hand needle, sweep that loop off the left, pull the working yarn, and we've tinked that stitch. So let me finish this row so I can show you what it looks like on the wrong side of my work. There's another one, and we'll just keep going. You can see that once you get used to the rhythm of this, much like when you first learn to work a regular old knit stitch, it gets pretty easy. So since I slipped the first stitch in my row, I'm just going to slip that last stitch from the left to the right needle. So there we go. That's one entire row tinked. Now we're going to turn to the other side of our work, get our working yarn all set, and we're ready to tink again, but we're on the wrong side this time. So for this first stitch, which is my chain edge here, we're not going to work in this loop, we're going to work in the one below it. And just like before, we slip our needle through, pull the working yarn, and we've tinked that first stitch. Next, instead of going again through the loop on our left needle, we go for the loop below, grab the front of that stitch, slip it off, pull the working yarn, and that stitch is freed up again. One more time. We're going to grab the front of this next loop, pull it off, and pull our working yarn to tink that stitch. So that's how you do a basic tink to tear back your knitting. One thing to keep in mind with tinking is that it's great for if you've made a mistake earlier in your row or just the row before. If it's more than a couple rows down, you'll probably want to consider using a lifeline and tearing back without working each individual stitch backwards. If you've got more tips and tricks for tinking, go ahead and let us know in the comments, and tune again soon for more knitting tutorials.